For example, as a businessman or woman, if you want to actually borrow money from the bank, we know that these interest rates have also increased. But how will an upcoming entrepreneur actually be affected by this? Because if you are starting out, for example, if you're starting out a handbag business or a food business, and then the bank tells you, okay, you want to borrow money as your capital, like these are our new interest rates, will you still be inspired to go into this business? Because I feel these new policies will benefit the rich in the society, the elites, but the average Nigerian is still very hard hit by this thing. And our personal finances are going through a whole lot. Yes, you have recommended that people need to go create a budget. People need to also reduce. People also need to save. People also need to reduce expenses too. So how does this new interest rates affect our personal finances? I'm referring to the common man on the street now.
Yes, thank you very much, Lovina. You see, again, economic policies, NPC meetings, government policy, you know, they look strange to the average man on the street. We're talking of the economics of the real world. That is, the Mama Risika that sells bread at 23 Road Junction. It's Mama Ada that sells beans, you know, at last bus stop in First Tag. Or even Mama James that sells maybe Gary somewhere in Ilasa or Mushian, all over the Lagos State and of course the country. What does it really mean to them? Like you have said, Ugo has a small business, you know, he employs some few people, he gets bank assistance from time to time. And now, because of this new MPRO, if an MPRO is monetary policy rate,
yes.
It is the benchmark rate that financial institutions use to lend to their customers. And if you see, he made mention there that there is an asymmetric corridor of minus 100 plus 300.
Yes.
Okay? What that means is that the rates, as we were told, or we have all seen it, was increased by 400 basis points. That is even grammar. They just
it's still grammar for them. They won't understand it.
The rate formerly was 18.75. Now what they are saying, he just increased the rate by 4 digits. That's why it is now that 18.75 plus 4, you are getting the 22.75.
Yes.
That's where the 400 basis point comes in. Now, you have increased that rate. What you are now telling financial institutions is to reevaluate their lending policy. So, if you want to come and take money now, that is the baseline rate they're going to be giving you.
Yeah.
They say minus 100 plus 300 at a symmetric corridor. That means a bank can do 300 basis points. So a bank can even give you at 25%. The bank can even give you at less than that, you know, plus or minus, maybe 21%. Because they are saying 100 minus 100.
Yes, minus 100 plus
300.
Yes.
Okay, just plus minus 1, then plus 3. That is just simply what it's saying. So, and it's going to affect the cost of fund. And that SME owner will not be able to assess that cost of that fund. And if he's not able to assess that fund, then it will affect his operation. Note, he's already suffering with power.
Exactly.
And if he can no longer sustain his operation, what happens? He will close shop. The 3, 4, 5 persons he has employed, what happened to their own personal finance? There will be no income.
Yes.
So you can see that it's having, even for the so-called big businesses, it's still going to affect them. Because when that cost of fund is high, then of course, financing costs, it will, you know, they will put it on top of the product or services they are selling, and that will increase the price of the product or services in the market.
So the consumer has to bear the brunt of all of this right now.
Of course. But again, let's look at it from this other point. The CBN and its team, they have a mandate to maintain price stability and advise the government when it comes to monetary policy. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so and that is the issue. So they have to do their job. So he is trying to look for a balancing. Note also, inflation rate is at 29.9%.
Yes.
So they are trying to see how he could balance. That is just what monetary policy and the CBN they are trying to do. Now, if I am to put my money in savings account or in fixed income, and I'm getting, let me say, the MPRO, which is 22.75%.
Yes.
and I put 100,000 naira there, then inflation rate is 29. So that means I'm already getting a negative return.
Yes.
So you can see that the monetary authorities are just trying to tweak this figure to see how, at the end of the day, it's like a balancing act, but we have never seen where it is 100% balanced. You must have these issues here and there. But we must commend the CBN governor for taking this move. Yes, this is the first he has shared and the first for the year. So we'll see how it goes. It's just the first one. But again, CBN alone cannot, or monetary policy alone cannot solve Nigerian problem.
Yes.
It has to be in conjunction with the fiscal authority, which is where the government comes in. There is no amount of fiscal monetary policy, price stability policy that CBN will embark on that will overnight solve Nigerian economic problem. No. We have to look at the fiscal side, which is government spending, government tax, and of course, operations of government,
improving
revenue,
our infrastructures,
improving our infrastructure power, but most importantly, revenue.
Yeah.
If we are able to fix the revenue side of the equation, that is, we block all the loopholes.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody was telling me that in a smaller country, maybe it's Qatar, what they produce in terms of their major revenue, which is oil and gas, they're able to do about 10 million barrels of oil per day.
Okay.
And Nigeria, Qatar does not have a population of maybe up to 10 million or 20 million people. But Nigeria is talking of over 220 million people, and we can't even make 1 million barrels per day. And how do we think that is going to solve our problem when it comes to revenue? No. Looking at even power also, we can just barely generate, let me say, 3,000 megawatts. But if you go to some countries, they can generate over 10,000 megawatts. So you can see that the fiscal part of government, that is the government itself, has to do a lot to see that the economy is getting to its right footing. It's only when that is done, CBN cannot come in with their monetary policy, try to see that the effect is available, and if there are infractions here and there, like what he was talking about in the banking industry, they can now regulate and see that things are done properly. So for the average Nigerian, well, what I would say again is you have to keep tightening your belts.
That's what I was going to say.
And this is the time where your personal finance comes in. Because people have asked me, who does personal finance? Somebody will tell you, oh, I earn less than 100,000 naira. Why do I need personal finance? That is the big people. No. As long as you earn an income, personal finance is for everybody who earns an income. Once you earn, even if you are a student, you will receive an allowance. You are expected to do personal finance. What is your personal finance? It's running your money as a business, trying to see what comes in, what goes out, and you prioritize. You allocate that little money you have to some of your expenses and see that at the end of the day, you are not caught napping. So this is the time, husband and wives, in fact, the one show I had on another platform, I was talking of marital finance, and I said this is the time where spouses should come together and begin to look at their resources, what they are getting, and look at their priority, and get those things that is their basic necessities. So my advice would be, look at your basic necessities and allocate your funds to meet those basic necessities, and you will be able to live this turbulent period, because this is the time of economic uncertainty. Yeah. But we thank God the government is doing everything they can. You are seeing the CBN governor always there trying to explain one thing or the other, the president himself trying to do this and do that, but enough of talk. We want to see implementation, action of some of all this. And that's why, well, I will say for every economic manager, like those who manage the economy, CBN is there, and of course the finance minister, there are three basic factors they want to control. One, interest rates. Two, they want to control inflation rates. Then of course, exchange rates. And there is no formula. Well, maybe those who have done financial economics and other economics, but there can be textbook formula. but in real life, it doesn't really apply. How do you tweak these variables so that it is optimal for the average Nigerian? You can see now, because inflation rate is high, the CBN governor is doing what? Increasing interest rates.
Also, yes.
We will call that in financial jargon that is being hawkish, you know, and hawk is simply somebody who wants to keep increasing interest rate to try to meet up with inflationary rates. Okay, so they will keep doing that, and of course, our naira is still floating. Again, yes, CBN will need to monitor that market closely, because I know, yes, it's good for demand and supply forces to determine the price of our currency, but from time to time, CBN should intervene to see that the market is still within levels.
Yes.
And it's very simple. I'll give you an example. The stock market, demand and supply determines the prices as it goes up and down. But there is a cap. In any particular day, no security will go up more than 10%. No security will go down more than 10%. So there is still that regulatory oversight to see that things are within band. So I think that is what CBN is supposed to do now, to monitor that our FX market and ensure that the volatility there, at least there is a cap on a daily basis. But at the same time, we must also supply, that is get enough supply, you know, the supply side, so that we'll not have too much demand and there is no supply. Because if you continue this way, our naira will continue to depreciate against other international currency.
Yes, we've seen that happening also. Yes. Okay, yes, and you also mentioned that, yes, we actually need to get more, what's the word I should use now? We need to actually tighten our belts, as you rightfully say, but it just means we need to actually create a budget, and we also need to focus on the most important things on our budget. Okay, so that means going forward in future, we're actually looking at seeing more smaller businesses shutting down. We're seeing companies letting go of some staff. We're also seeing more companies saying, okay, we don't need these certain services right now. We can't provide these services due to certain reasons. So we have to focus on the most important things that can yield the most for us. And it's still, like I still said, the common Nigeria is going to be affected by these cuts right now, because if you increase the money you used to pay for your goods and services, for transportation, for the cost of fuel, or because you want to tighten your budget, and next thing you're saying is that we, the common people in the streets, were all affected by this situation, and we actually want to know, how can we save our personal finances from this inflationary trend, actually? Because we've seen, okay, going to the bank is not an option for us right now because of the increase in the interest rates. We've also seen that we can't, if going forward, we actually need to reduce so many things. Some people were talking about the, you know, the popular eating method. They say eat 3 times a day. That's what nutritionists say. But in the events of this kind of situation, some people that say, okay, make it 0, 0, 1, or 1, 0, 1. You know, there's always one issue or the other that they'll say, make sure it's no longer 3 again. But don't we see a situation whereby children, for example, cannot afford those nutritional benefits in terms of food, because food prices have gone up due to inflation? And then in terms of the cost of living, things that we could always get easily because of the money, we can't afford them anymore. People who want to provide such services, not just food, in terms of healthcare and other resources that we need, other services that we need rather, we can't afford them. So how do we protect our personal finances? I also want to add that it's not, salaries are not going up in this situation because of this thing. Every business owner is looking at, how will I still make cuts? How will I still make profits? Because it's profit that is on every business owner's mind right now. They are not thinking of, okay, how do I pay them more salaries? No. The average business owner, I'm talking about people who are running maybe a hairdressing salon or a barbing salon, maybe a school, maybe your regular crèche or daycare or primary school. They are not, some schools are even increasing fees. So how do these people cope with this new trend? Because before it was go to the bank and get money. Now we do not have that option anymore.
Well, it's not as easy as going to the bank and even get money. You must be their customer.
Yes.
You must, maybe if you're a salary owner, your salary comes to that account and you draw. Of course, banks have so many schemes before, you know, before your salary comes, you can withdraw, because they know that your salary will come and all that. Well, let's even start from the government, Lagos State government. You can see as a government, as an employer too, they have decided to trim down. They have said, civil servants, certain grades, come to work 3 times a day.
Yes,
Good.
I heard that.
That's it. Then private employers too can say, okay, there are certain jobs you can do at home. Why not work remotely? We all saw that during the COVID, and it was very effective. And this is also that time now where we don't need to converge physically in the office 5 days a week. Some persons do just twice a week, and the other days they work remotely.
Home, yes.
And we are seeing the impact in the work environment. So it is not the time I will advise any SME to even shut down. This is the time, because they say tough time don't last, but tough people do.
Yes.
So this is the time where you need to deploy resilience. You need to let that flow in your organization. Let all the workers know that this is the time we have to stay. This is the time we have to continue to produce. This is the time we have to be there for our customers. In fact, we're even seeing ingenuity these days, innovation. In fact, I saw a video of a young lady, you know Gary?
Yes.
They had this nylon, they take 2-3 spoons inside that and they tie, so they're selling for 50 naira. And they also have sugar too, okay? My only prayer there is let them do it hygienically. So with 100 naira, you can buy 2 of those nylon, Gary, maybe sugar too, and of course, maybe some little granite, you have taken a meal. So this is the time, because necessity is the mother of invention. This is the time we have to become more creative, more innovative, to see that where we used to spend so much, we spend less. Kudos again to Lagos State government. You can see how the train is working, and I don't know, they say today the president himself will be around to commission the red line and whatever.
The blue line.
Now, let me give you a personal example. I'm not PRO for Lagos State government, but what I saw today, the train came on time, we all entered, and when we got to National Theatre, if you are familiar with that first tag Orile corridor, and what happened? They said those who are going to UBA, going to Ohando on Marina, you could come down, there are vehicles waiting. You know, so you don't need to follow the train to get to Marina here, the last terminal. So you can see that, making it very flexible. And of course, these are Lagos State buses, the BRT, the smaller ones and all that. And people disembarked from the train at National Theatre, and they just entered those buses and they are taken to UBA and of course to Ohando. So you can see that in terms of transportation, government is already intervening. Because once you have energy poverty, that the people cannot pay for their transportation to take them from one place or from point A to point B, it's a problem. So you can see that Lagosians were smiling. But again, we'll still appeal to Lagos State government to see how they can still do little rebates on those fares, so that even the average...
I think it's coming up, because during the media chat with the governor, he mentioned that there's going to be a 25% rebate.
Yeah, they say that has been effected already, you know, but you know, at Oliver Twist, we are still asking for those buses, you know. But they say they are quite affordable compared to what those private buses
the
will
yellow
charge
buses,
and all that. And of course, you see the comfort there, you know. So yes, when calling Lagos State government for the bed, we still believe they can do more. So all this is a long way, all this will go a long way in ensuring that the average person on the street is able to live with a little bit of comfort. And the cases of depression, suicidal tendency will reduce very well, and will move, and the economy will improve. But we need government to be very, very sincere.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Thank you for that, Mr. Charles. Yes, thank you very much for that. Yes, I also want to discuss with you. We know our bureau de change operators, as we popularly call them, the black market, or our unofficial rates, as we know them. But we have the CBN rates and the unofficial rates. Now, recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria gave a directive that they're going to introduce 5 new regulations to the BDCs as to how to run their business. And they said they're going to introduce the capital requirements for your regular BDC. It's no longer going to be 35 million naira. They're going to have 2 tiers. So the tier 1 BDC operator should have as much as 2 billion naira to start the business, and then tier 2 should have 500 million naira to start the business. The second regulation is that sources of foreign currencies. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria Act of 1995 put out that BDC operators do not have to disclose their sources of foreign currencies. But right now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has changed that they must disclose their sources of foreign currencies, whether it's coming from tourists, whether it's coming from people returning from diaspora, or it could be international monetary transfer operators, or it could be from embassies. But BDC operators must disclose where they are getting their foreign currencies. And this is also to stop the use of politicians using them to launder money, launder foreign currencies. So that's the second one. The third one, digital integration with the Central Bank of Nigeria. They want BDC operations to be integrated with the CBN, to also have some values shared with the CBN. The same way the CBN controls and regulates commercial banks, they also want to enforce that with the BDC. And in addition to that, they also want to have external, that's number 4, external auditors monitoring the BDC. So every now and then you have these auditors who come there to check their accounts, to know the sources of their funds, to know how to measure their net open position, the current foreign exchange that they have compared to what they're actually selling out. And last one, for you to operate your BDC, you must have your BVN requirements. So these things have shaken up the bureau de change community, and you see most of them saying, okay, maybe we're going to partner up and come up with how we can solve this issue, because they still want to keep operating. After all, we call them our unofficial market, foreign exchange market rates. But how do you actually see these 5 new regulations enforcing some form of how do I put
sanity?
Sanity in the bureau de change community, please, Mr. Charles.
Yes, briefly. Thank you very much. I think this is long overdue.
Yes.
Because I've advocated in so many other platforms that I've not seen where a country's currency is being traded openly, on the streets.
Yes,
and all that. Yes, at one point in time, you could say that if there were no loopholes, we won't have such things. Because if me and you go to the bank and these are our requirements that we want this foreign, we will not get. Yes. And if we see somebody on the street, our neighbor, who does that kind of business, and so they can give you. In fact, I even had a neighbor who will even talk to you, he won't come inside your parlor, you will see that they are discussed, and you give him the naira, you say you want the dollar, and you transact it there, you feel very comfortable. If the money is so you say, okay, you go to the bank, you transfer and all that.
Yes,
you are very comfortable,
yes.
Okay? So, for me, they were meeting a need. They were meeting a need because of that loophole. Now, with the bureau de change, yes, and most Nigerians too are also very greedy. They believe that maybe you have $100 you want to sell. You even go to some of these bureau de change, the pricing, you might not like, you want to get optimal. But they say, no, go to Aboki, go to Mala, you will get higher rate, and we all flood here. So at one point in time, there was a demand for their service and there was supply. So that business strived. So the CBN governor coming out now with all these guidelines, tier 1, tier 2, trying to regulate the operations of this BDC and of course the parallel market. There will be nothing like parallel markets as far as me I'm concerned. If the CBN is able to regulate this.
Yes.
I had always have this issue with regulation. Regulation is good. But for me, regulation is not something you just do overnight. It should be a collaborative thing between the operators and the regulators. I just hope that CBN will have the manpower and the resources to regulate, monitor this bureau de change. Yeah. You have said, well, is it 2 billion for tier 1?
Yes, and 500 million
for tier 2.
Yes.
And when I saw those regulations, for me it was like a bank. It was
that's
like
what
a
they
bank.
want to change them
because
into. Yes.
These stringent measures, not to stifle these people out of operation, but safeguard of the financial system.
Yes.
That is, whether we like it or not, the BDCs are a part of the ecosystem in our financial service industry. So, and you know that in any economy, your financial service industry is key. Yes. If that service, that financial service catches or sneezes, every other sector will catch cold.
Yes,
so you
true.
need to regulate that sector very well. I'm happy with it. But we have seen even in the core banking, commercial banking, when we increase their share capital, make them large, big banks, but we still saw what I call corporate governance issue. What happened to the likes of Intercontinental Bank, Diamond Bank? They are no more. But they were very big banks before.
Yes.
So for me, it's not the size of a financial institution that is the issue. for me is the integrity of the operators. We want to see approved persons who have integrity. And that is why I always talk about ethics in any profession. So I hope that CBN will extend this further to even the board and management of this BDC. There should be persons with proven integrity.
Yes.
And I like what they said, that you cannot have more than one BDC license.
Yes.
Which is also very key. So that we have some sanity in that sector. And I'm happy they're going to be doing some work the commercial banks were doing. So that might even ease the commercial bank, you know. They're talking of your personal travel allowance, your business travel allowance, they will be able to give to you and all that. But if you are requiring more than $500, you know,
then you have to go to the bank.
You have to go to the bank and all that. So for me, yes, CBN, that is fine what they are doing. Like I said, every manager of any economy, you look at the economy as a whole and say, okay, let me see what I can do with this. Can I reduce this? Can I increase this? And it's like a scenario effect. You try this, and see the impact. And if you are getting positive feedback, you want to continue, that's your policy
I totally
measure.
agree with you.
So that is how, what they are doing now. We should be patient with them, I agreed, but we must have timelines. Because for any project, you must have timeline. Let's see what they have done now in the next 3 months.
Yes, I
what improvement are we seeing? And continuously like that. And there should be proper monitoring. And I believe with this coming from the monetary side of the economy,
our Apex Bank,
the Apex Bank,
it will be
and
properly
the
monitored.
operators also collaborating with them very well. Then of course we'll see some sanity in that section, in that sector. It's a welcome development. I agree with them.
Thank you for that, Mr. Charles. Yes, so we're now going to talk about the selling exchange rate, foreign exchange rates at the official market this morning, Friday, 29th February. It's a leap year also. So today, the Naira is currently selling the dollar. You could get it at 1,491 Naira for the dollar. And the pound sterling is selling, this is the official CBN rate, at 1,910 Naira. And the euro is selling at 1,637 Naira. While in the parallel markets, that's what we call our unofficial rates, the Naira is actually selling, the dollar is going for, the dollar is selling the Naira at 1,450 Naira, and the pound sterling at the unofficial rate is going for 1,800 Naira, and the euro is going for 1,700 Naira. So this is actually a new development, that the CBN rates are higher than the unofficial rates with the dollars. Actually, for example, 1,491 Naira at the official CBN rate and 1,450 Naira at the black market rate. So this is actually very new. Well, we're still watching the figures as they keep going. So that was our package this morning on Market Insights. Yes, we actually did share some of the clips from Mr. Olayemi Cardoso's speech when he was talking about the Monetary Policy Committee's decisions. And then my guest and I also discussed further as how these interest rates will affect the personal finances of the common man on the streets, and how we needed to take more stringent measures with our personal finances in creating a budget in which we can actually only focus on the most important things that we needed, how we needed to also look inwards and improve our fiscal policy in regards to the federal government, improving our fiscal policy with infrastructure, with our roads, with our food, improving our local food production, so that in the long term, we could actually be free of this high inflation situation in the country. So thank you so much for joining me this morning on Market Insights. Also good having you here, Mr. Charles Fakrogha. Yes, he just wants to add a closing remark.
Yes. An important advice I always give at this turbulent time, uncertainty in our economy, this is the time where we need to save first of all before spending, not the other way around.
That's a very key point. We need to save before we spend. Yes, that's very important. So that's our package this morning. Do stay tuned for our continuous programming on Souq News Television. I remain your host, Lovina Emma. Stay tuned for more programs.